The battlefield was silent now. Only the cold wind moved through the broken metal and burning dust. The war between humans and the alien empire had ended in chaos, leaving behind nothing but smoke and death. Ethan Cross, a tired human soldier, walked slowly through the ruins. His armor was scratched, his weapon half broken, but his eyes still searched for survivors. He had been separated from his unit during the final blast. Now he was alone in a dead zone filled with the smell of fire and oil. The sky was dark and heavy with ash. Every step he took made a soft crunch against the burned ground. He had seen war before, but this battlefield felt different. It felt alive, as if something unseen was still watching him. Ethan stopped when he heard a strange sound. It was soft, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. At first, he thought it was just his mind playing tricks, but then he heard it again, a weak, broken voice. It came from behind a crashed alien ship that was half buried in the sand. He moved closer, careful and quiet. The wreckage was glowing faintly, blue light escaping through cracks in the metal. It looked like an alien escape pod, small and shaped like a silver seed. Ethan raised his weapon just in case. The whisper came again. This time it sounded like a cry for help. His heart began to beat faster. He wanted to walk away. He knew that helping an alien was dangerous. The war had taken too many lives already, but something deep inside him told him not to leave. It was the same instinct that had kept him human in a world of hate. He reached the pod and pulled open the damaged door. Inside, he found her, a young alien girl lying on the floor. Her skin had a soft green glow, her long black hair covered in ash. She looked fragile, barely breathing. Her silver eyes opened for a second. Meeting his, they were full of fear and pain. But also something else. Trust. Ethan froze. He had seen alien soldiers before, tall and deadly, but this girl looked nothing like them. She was small, almost human. Her clothes were torn armor, made of strange shining fabric. She had a wound on her leg, and a strange crystal around her neck that pulsed with faint light. He looked around. No one else was there. The area was quiet except for the sound of fire and wind. He sighed and said softly, "Don't worry, I've got you," even though he wasn't sure she could understand. He lifted her carefully in his arms. Her body was light, and the glow from her skin made his face shimmer faintly. As he carried her away from the wreck, his radio crackled with static. A human voice called out, "All units, if you find any alien survivors, report immediately." Ethan hesitated. He could turn her in, follow the rules, but one look at her bleeding wound made his decision for him. He turned off the radio and kept walking. He found an old cave nearby, hidden under broken rocks. Inside it was dark but dry. He laid her down gently and cleaned her wound using what little water he had left. She winced but didn't speak. Her eyes followed his hands, confused but calm. He wrapped her leg with a torn piece of his uniform. For a moment, Ethan just sat beside her, staring at the strange girl who could have been his enemy. He wondered who she was, why she was here, and how she had survived the crash. He felt something inside him change, something small but powerful. Outside, thunder rumbled across the sky. The wind carried the sound of distant machines. Both human and alien forces were still searching the area. Ethan looked at the sleeping alien girl and whispered to himself, "What have I done?" He didn't know it yet, but the choice he made that night would change everything. The girl he found was not just a survivor. She was the key to peace or destruction. A spark that could decide the fate of two worlds. Ethan leaned against the cave wall. Holding his weapon tight, the storm outside grew stronger, and the soft glow from the girl's skin filled the cave with gentle light. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. The night was long and heavy. Rain fell outside the cave like a soft drum beating on the stones. Ethan sat near the small fire he had built, watching the strange alien girl as she slept. Her skin still glowed faintly, a pale green light that made the shadows move on the walls. He had seen many strange things during the war, but nothing like this. When morning came, sunlight touched the cave's entrance. The girl stirred, her eyes opening slowly. Ethan froze. Her eyes were silver, not gray or white, but pure shining silver like liquid metal. They reflected the light, almost glowing on their own. For a moment, they just stared at each other, silent and still. She tried to sit up but gasped in pain. Ethan reached out quickly. "Easy," he said softly. She didn't understand the words, but the tone was calm, kind. Her lips moved, speaking in a language he had never heard. It sounded musical, like whispers and wind mixed together. He shook his head. "I don't understand," he said. Then, to his surprise, she reached out and touched his wrist. The moment her skin touched his, something strange happened. His wrist began to glow with the same green light that came from her. Symbols appeared on his skin, floating, changing like lines of energy written in light. Ethan pulled back in shock. "What did you do?" he whispered. But she only stared at the marks and whispered one word. "Chosen." The glow faded, leaving faint marks like tattoos on his wrist. Ethan rubbed them, but they wouldn't disappear. He didn't know if it was poison, magic, or alien technology. All he knew was that something had just connected them in a way he couldn't explain. Hours passed as he tried to communicate with her. He pointed at himself and said, "Ethan." She watched carefully, then pointed at herself and said, "Lyra." Her voice was soft and calm, but when she spoke her name, the cave's light flickered as if the air itself knew her. Ethan repeated, "Lyra," and she smiled faintly. As the day went on, she tried to walk, but her leg was still weak. Ethan helped her stand, holding her steady. She looked at him with curiosity, touching his face like she was studying every detail. He felt a strange warmth, not fear, but something gentle. She seemed to trust him even though their worlds were enemies. Suddenly a sound echoed from outside, the sharp hum of a drone. Ethan's heart jumped. He peeked through the cracks in the rock and saw a black metal sphere floating near the trees. Scanning the area with red lights, it was an alien recon drone. If it found them, they were both dead. Ethan turned to Lyra and made a silent motion. "Stay quiet." She nodded quickly, clutching the crystal on her necklace. Her breathing slowed and her skin's glow faded completely until she looked almost human. The drone hovered for a moment, scanning, then drifted away. Ethan exhaled slowly, his hands still shaking. After it left, Lyra looked at him with a serious expression. She pointed to herself and then made a motion across her neck, a gesture of danger or death. Then she pointed at the sky and drew a circle in the air. Ethan didn't fully understand, but he guessed she was saying that more of them were coming. He decided they couldn't stay in the cave anymore. He packed his gear and helped her walk through the forest. The morning mist made everything quiet. Only their footsteps broke the silence as they moved. Ethan noticed strange shapes carved into the trees, glowing faintly with the same light as Lyra's skin. When he asked her with a look, she only whispered, "Old paths." They reached a cliff overlooking the valley where the battle had taken place. From there, Ethan saw both human and alien forces searching the area, black smoke rising from the ground like dark rivers. Lyra looked down at the chaos and tears filled her eyes. She whispered something he didn't understand, but the sadness in her voice was clear. Ethan wanted to ask her who she really was, but before he could, the marks on his wrist glowed again. This time, he heard a faint voice in his mind, not his own, but hers. She wasn't speaking with words, but with thoughts. "They will find me," her voice said in his head. "If they find me, you will die too." Ethan stumbled back in shock, staring at her. You can talk in my head," he said quietly. She nodded, her silver eyes glowing once again. "Bond," she whispered. "We are connected now." The air around them felt heavy. The sound of engines echoed in the distance, and flashes of light appeared in the sky. Enemy ships were arriving. The forest trembled as something powerful landed nearby. Ethan gripped his weapon and looked at her. "Who are you really, Lyra?" he asked. She looked at him for a long moment, her silver eyes soft but sad. "I am not what you think," she said slowly. "If they find me, your world will burn." Ethan didn't understand everything, but one thing was clear. Saving her was no longer just an act of kindness. It was the beginning of something far greater, something that could decide the fate of both their worlds. He looked out at the burning horizon, then back at her. "Then I guess we better keep running," he said with a half smile. She nodded once, her eyes glowing brighter, and together, they disappeared into the misty forest. The forest stretched for miles. Green and endless, the morning fog hung low, and every sound echoed through the trees. Ethan moved carefully, guiding Lyra through the thick roots and fallen leaves. The wound on her leg had stopped bleeding, but she was still weak. Her silver eyes darted around nervously, every rustle making her tense. They had been walking for hours since dawn. Ethan's uniform was torn, his body bruised, but he kept moving. His instincts told him they weren't safe, not yet. The memory of the drone still haunted him. It wouldn't be long before more came. He looked back every few minutes, scanning the mist for movement. Lyra walked beside him, silent but alert. She held the glowing crystal close to her chest. It pulsed softly like a heartbeat. Ethan didn't know what it was, but he had noticed something strange. Every time the crystal glowed brighter, his wrist symbols glowed too. It felt as if their energy was connected somehow. Suddenly a low humming filled the air. Ethan froze. He recognized that sound. Alien hovercrafts. He pulled Lyra behind a large tree and crouched. A squad of alien soldiers appeared in the distance, their armor shining like black glass. They moved in perfect formation, scanning the area with weapons that crackled with blue energy. Ethan held his breath. His heart pounded so loud he was sure they could hear it. Lyra pressed close to him, her hand trembling slightly. The soldiers stopped near the cliff they had crossed earlier. One of them knelt and touched the ground. Scanning the soil with a small device, a red light blinked, showing traces of human DNA, Ethan's. He knew they were close, too close without making a sound. He gestured for Lyra to follow him deeper into the forest. They moved slowly, keeping low, every step careful. The humming of the ships above grew louder. The hunt had truly begun. After a few minutes, Lyra grabbed his arm, pointing toward a stream nearby. "Water," she whispered in broken English. Ethan nodded and led her to the riverbank. The sound of the flowing water masked their footsteps. He knelt down, splashing some on his face. The cold water woke his senses, reminding him how real the danger was. Lyra looked at her reflection in the water. Her silver eyes shimmered faintly. "They know I'm alive," she said softly, her voice trembling. "They will not stop until they find me." Ethan looked at her. "Then we'll just have to make sure they don't," he said, trying to sound confident even though he wasn't sure how. Suddenly, the forest shook with a deep rumble. A beam of blue energy shot down from the sky, striking the ground only a few meters away. Trees exploded into flames, and the shockwave threw Ethan and Lyra to the ground. Dirt and smoke filled the air. The alien soldiers had found them. Ethan pulled Lyra up quickly, coughing. "Run!" he shouted. They sprinted through the forest, branches slashing against their faces behind them. Alien soldiers fired energy blasts that turned trees into ash. Ethan's boots pounded against the ground, every muscle screaming with exhaustion. He could hear the metallic footsteps chasing them. Closer and closer, Lyra stumbled, but Ethan caught her. He pulled her behind a large fallen tree, both of them gasping for breath. The soldiers were only seconds away. Ethan's hand shook as he raised his weapon. He fired a few shots blindly into the mist, blue flashes lighting the air. One soldier fell, his armor cracking open. The others spread out, moving like shadows. Lyra placed her hands on the ground, her eyes glowed brightly, and the earth around them began to shimmer. The roots of the trees twisted upward, wrapping around the soldiers' legs. Trapping them, Ethan stared in shock. "You can do that?" he said. Lyra's face was pale. "Only for a moment," she whispered. "Go!" They ran again as the trapped soldiers struggled to break free. After several minutes, they reached an old bunker covered in vines. Ethan forced open the rusted door. Dragging Lyra inside, the air was cold and musty, full of dust and forgotten metal. He slammed the door shut behind them and leaned against it. Breathing hard, Lyra sank to the floor, her energy fading. "They will send more," she said weakly. Ethan nodded. "Then we'll stay ahead of them." He looked around. The bunker had old supplies and water tanks, energy cells, even a working light panel. It wasn't much, but it would do for now. As they rested, Ethan looked at his wrist again. The symbols glowed softly, almost alive. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Why did you mark me?" Lyra opened her eyes slowly. "You saved me," she said. "The bond chooses only those who act with heart, not hate." Her words echoed in his mind. He didn't fully understand, but he felt something deeper than fear. A strange connection he couldn't explain. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. The alien ships circled above. Searching for their lost princess, Ethan checked his weapon, his jaw set with determination. "If they want you, they'll have to go through me first," he said. Lyra looked at him, her eyes soft. "You don't understand," she whispered. "They will not just come for me. They will come for your whole world." Ethan met her gaze, calm but unshaken. "Then they picked the wrong world to fight," he said. And in that dark, forgotten bunker, the human soldier and the alien girl prepared for a battle that neither of them fully understood. A war was coming, and the hunt had only just begun. Night settled over the forest again, cold and silent. The small bunker where Ethan and Lyra hid was dimly lit by a single flickering lamp. Dust floated in the air, and the faint sound of rain echoed above them. Ethan sat near the door, his weapon across his knees, while Lyra rested against the wall, her breathing soft and shallow. Hours passed before either of them spoke. The silence between them was heavy but not empty. It was the kind that carried unspoken thoughts, questions and fears. Finally, Ethan broke it. "You said they'll come for my world," he said quietly. "Why? Who are you really?" Lyra's eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly in the dim light. For a moment she didn't answer. She reached for the glowing crystal hanging around her neck, holding it tightly in her hand. "Because I am not just one of them," she said softly. "I am their princess." Ethan froze, staring at her in disbelief. "Princess," he repeated. Lyra nodded. "My name is Lyra of Serath, daughter of Emperor Kael, ruler of the Serath Empire. The war you fight began because of him." Ethan felt his heart race. The alien girl he had saved, the one he carried from the wreckage, was the daughter of the enemy leader, the one responsible for millions of deaths. "Why are you here then?" he asked. "Why were you in that crash?" Lyra's silver eyes turned sad. "Because I tried to stop it," she whispered. "My father believes humans are a disease spreading through the stars. He wanted to destroy Earth before your people could become strong enough to fight back. But I saw something different. I saw fear in his heart. Not truth." She took a deep breath, her voice trembling slightly. "I gathered a few loyal guards and planned to escape. I wanted to speak to your leaders, to offer peace. But my ship was attacked before I could reach your world. I don't know if it was my father's forces or someone else. I woke up in the wreckage and then you found me." Ethan rubbed his hands over his face, trying to take it all in. "So you were trying to stop the war," he said, "and now your own people want you dead." Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, and they will destroy anyone who stands with me." Ethan stood and began to pace. "Then why save you?" he muttered. "Why risk everything for someone who might bring an army to my planet?" But even as he said it, he knew the answer, because when he looked at her, he didn't see an enemy. He saw someone lost, someone fighting for something bigger than herself. Lyra looked at him quietly, her expression unreadable. "You could leave," she said. "You could turn me into your commanders. They would reward you." Ethan shook his head. "I don't want a reward," he said. "I just want this war to stop." For a moment their eyes met, and something passed between them, a silent understanding. The kind of connection that didn't need words. It was fragile but real. Suddenly, the sound of static broke through Ethan's earpiece. He had forgotten to turn off the backup frequency. A human voice came through. "Echo team to any survivors. Respond." Ethan hesitated, his thumb hovering over the button. Lyra looked at him with concern. "If they find us, they will take me," she said quietly. "You will lose everything." Ethan looked at her, then at his radio and made his choice. He shut the device off. "I've already made my decision," he said. "You're not going anywhere without me." Lyra's eyes softened, a faint smile touching her lips. "You are strange, human," she said. "Most of your kind would have killed me by now." Ethan chuckled tiredly. "Yeah, well, maybe I'm not like most outside." Thunder rolled again, but it wasn't from the sky this time. The ground trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. Ethan ran to the bunker door and peeked through a crack. His heart dropped. In the distance, through the trees, he saw bright blue lights moving in formation. "They've found us," he whispered. Lyra stood slowly, her eyes glowing bright silver. The marks on Ethan's wrist began to shine again, lines of light spreading up his arm. "What's happening?" he asked, startled. Lyra looked at him. "The bond is waking," she said. "You can feel my energy now. You can fight with it." Before Ethan could ask more, the bunker door exploded inward. Metal shards flew through the air as alien soldiers stormed in. Ethan reacted instantly, firing his weapon. Bolts of light cutting through the smoke. Lyra raised her hands, energy forming around her like a glowing shield. The battle was short but brutal. Ethan moved faster than he ever had before, his body filled with strange strength. Every shot he fired seemed guided by something beyond instinct. Lyra's energy waves deflected attacks like wind against fire. Together they fought as one. When it was over, the soldiers lay silent on the floor, blue smoke rising from their armor. Ethan stood over them. Breathing hard, what was that? He asked. Lyra looked at him, the glow fading from her eyes. The beginning, she said softly. The bond between us is real now. We share power, fate, and danger. Ethan looked around at the broken bunker, his heart still racing. He realized there was no turning back. Whatever they had started together, it was now far bigger than both of them. Outside, the alien warships roared overhead, their searchlights cutting through the trees. Inside, the human soldier and the alien princess stood together in silence. Two worlds united by one impossible choice, and in that moment, Ethan understood. The war wasn't just between species anymore. It was between what they were and what they could become. The night after the attack was eerily quiet. The smoke from the battle still lingered in the forest, wrapping the trees in a ghostly haze. Ethan and Lyra sat near the edge of a small stream, their reflections trembling in the water like memories that refused to stay still. Ethan's arm still glowed faintly beneath his sleeve, the strange markings alive under his skin. He couldn't stop staring at them. Each pulse of light felt like a heartbeat that wasn't his. You said this bond connects us, he muttered. What does that really mean? Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes soft but troubled. It means our fates are joined, she said. If one of us dies, the other will feel the pain. If one of us grows stronger, the other does too. Ethan frowned. So I'm stuck with you forever? He said, trying to smile. Lyra didn't return it. Only until destiny decides otherwise, she whispered. They both turned as a distant rumble echoed through the trees. Not thunder this time. Engines, human ones. Ethan's communicator suddenly flickered to life, a familiar voice cutting through the static. Sergeant Cole, we've tracked your signal. Hold position. We're bringing you home. Ethan froze. It was his commander alive. He looked at Lyra, whose eyes widened in alarm. They'll kill me if they find me, she said. You know that? Ethan hesitated, torn between his duty and his promise. Maybe I can talk to them, he said. Maybe they'll listen. Lyra shook her head. Humans don't listen when they're afraid, she said. And right now your people are terrified of mine. Minutes later, a squad of human soldiers arrived. Their armor gleamed under the dim light, weapons ready. The leader, Captain Rhodes, stepped forward. Cole, you're a damn legend, he said. We thought you were dead, Ethan forced a smile. Almost was, he said, but I found something. Someone. The moment he said it, Lyra stepped out from the shadows. The soldiers reacted instantly, guns rising. Stand down, Ethan shouted. She's not a threat. But Rhodes's expression turned to pure rage. You brought an alien here? He barked. Are you insane? Ethan raised his hands, trying to calm them. Listen to me, he said. She's not one of the enemy soldiers. She's their princess. She wanted peace. She tried to stop the war. Rhodes blinked, then laughed bitterly. Peace, he said. Tell that to the men who burned in orbit last week. She's the reason half our fleet is gone. He lifted his weapon, aiming at Lyra. Step aside, Sergeant, that's an order. Ethan's pulse raced. The bond between him and Lyra throbbed painfully, like her fear was becoming his own. No, he said quietly, if you shoot her, you'll have to shoot me too. Rhodes stared at him, his jaw tightening. You've lost your mind, he said. You've been compromised. Ethan didn't answer. The silence was heavier than gunfire. Then, suddenly, Rhodes nodded to his men. Restrain him, he ordered. Two soldiers moved forward, grabbing Ethan's arms. He struggled, shouting, Don't do this! She's the key to ending this war. But his words fell into the cold air. Unheard, Lyra took a step back, panic flashing in her eyes. Ethan, she whispered. Her hands began to glow. Energy crackling around her, Rhodes noticed it and fired. The beam shot across the air like lightning. Hitting her shoulder, Lyra screamed. Falling to the ground, Ethan felt the pain too. As if the shot had burned through his own flesh, rage consumed him. He broke free, lunging at Rhodes and knocking the weapon aside. The two men crashed into the mud, fists flying. Don't make me kill you, Cole, Rhodes shouted. Ethan's voice broke with fury. You already did, he roared, slamming his fist into Rhodes's face. The soldiers hesitated, not knowing whether to help or shoot. Then suddenly the forest exploded in blue light. The air shimmered. Alien dropships descended from the clouds. Serath soldiers poured out, firing at the humans. The two forces collided in chaos. Ethan crawled toward Lyra, who was bleeding but alive. We have to move, he said, pulling her to her feet. They're coming for you. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. No, she said weakly. They're coming for both of us now. As explosions tore through the forest, Ethan realized the truth. It hadn't been luck that brought the Seraph ships here. It had been the bond. They could track her energy through him. Bullets and energy blasts tore the air apart. The forest burned. Ethan grabbed Lyra and ran, dodging fire as trees collapsed around them. They stumbled into a ravine, half falling down the slope, landing hard among the rocks, breathing heavily. Ethan looked up at the burning night sky. "We can't go back," he said. "Not to them, not to anyone," Lyra nodded, clutching her wounded arm. "Then we run," she whispered. "Until we find a way to end this once and for all far above." The Seraph flagship hovered silently, watching the battle below. Inside, a tall figure stood before a glowing screen, Emperor Kale, his cold eyes fixed on the image of his daughter and the human soldier beside her. "Prepare the hunters," he said, his voice calm but deadly. "My daughter has made her choice. Now I will make mine." The screen dimmed, the stars flickered, and the war between worlds grew darker, and far below, Ethan and Lyra vanished into the shadows of a burning forest, their bond stronger than ever, and far more dangerous than either of them yet knew. Dawn rose over the forest like a bleeding wound. The smoke from the night's battle still drifted above the trees. Glowing red in the light of the rising sun, Ethan and Lyra moved through the wilderness in silence, both exhausted and covered in dirt. Their breath came in ragged gasps, but neither dared to stop. Every sound felt dangerous now. Every crack of a twig, every rustle of leaves somewhere behind them. Engines rumbled faintly, too distant to see but close enough to fear. Lyra's shoulder still burned where she had been shot, and Ethan's arm glowed brighter each hour, the strange bond energy pulsing with her pain. "We can't keep running forever," Ethan said, helping her over a fallen tree. "Your father's men will track us anywhere." Lyra nodded weakly. "He will not stop until I am dead," she whispered. "Or until I am his prisoner again." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Then we don't let that happen," he said. "We fight." Lyra looked at him with tired eyes. "Fight an empire?" she asked softly. "You are one human soldier, and I am a wounded exile." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe. But last night we took down an entire squad together," he said. "That's a start." As they moved deeper into the forest, the air grew colder. The sunlight barely touched the ground. The silence was almost perfect, until it wasn't. A faint hum rippled through the trees. Low and vibrating, Ethan froze, listening. "They've found us," Lyra whispered. Moments later, something shot across the sky, a blur of silver light. It struck a nearby tree, exploding it into fragments. Ethan grabbed Lyra and rolled behind a rock. "Drones," he hissed, "hunter class." Above them, 3 sleek alien drones hovered, each one shaped like a serpent of metal. Their eyes glowed blue, scanning the ground. Then a cold mechanical voice echoed through the trees. "Surrender, Princess Lyra of Sarath, by order of Emperor Kale." Lyra's face hardened. "My father's hunters," she said. "They will not stop until one of us is dead." Ethan raised his weapon. "Then let's make sure it's not us." The first drone fired, beams slicing through the trees. Ethan dived aside, returning fire. His shots barely dented their shields. Lyra raised her hands, energy forming between her palms like a growing storm. She shouted something in her alien tongue, and a wave of blue light surged outward, shattering one drone in midair. Ethan stared, amazed. "How did you—" he began, but she cut him off. "I don't know," she said breathlessly. "The bond. It gives me strength when you believe." The second drone swooped low, metal tendrils reaching for them. Ethan leapt forward, shooting into its glowing core. The explosion knocked him back, dirt spraying across his face. The third drone descended silently behind him. Charging its weapon, Lyra screamed, "Ethan!" He turned just as the beam fired. But before it hit him, Lyra threw herself in front. The blast struck her full force, the world flashed white, and Ethan's body jolted with pain. The bond screamed inside him. It was like fire burning through his veins. He fell beside her, gasping. "Lyra," he said, shaking her. "Stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open weakly. "The energy—" "It's too strong," she whispered. "You have to control it." Ethan didn't understand. "How?" he shouted before she could answer. Something changed. The marks on his arm blazed with light spreading across his chest. His vision filled with symbols, strange alien shapes he somehow understood. The bond between them pulsed like a heartbeat, and suddenly he could feel everything, her fear, her pain. Her determination, it all became his. The energy inside them merged. Flowing like lightning, he stood slowly, his eyes glowing blue like hers. The last drone hovered above. Charging another shot, Ethan raised his hand, and a burst of light erupted from his palm, tearing the drone apart in a single blast. The forest fell silent again. Smoke drifting between the trees, Ethan stood still, trembling from the power that had just surged through him. Lyra stared at him in shock. "You channeled the bond," she whispered. "No human should be able to do that." Ethan knelt beside her, helping her sit up. "Looks like I just broke another rule," he said, trying to smile, but his hand still shook. He could feel the energy lingering under his skin, wild and alive. They rested in the hollow of a large fallen tree, the forest whispering around them. Lyra leaned against him weakly. "You risked your life for me again," she said quietly. Ethan shrugged. "You'd do the same." Lyra's eyes softened. "I already have," she said, far above them, high in orbit. The Seraph flagship glowed against the stars. Emperor Kale stood before a holographic map. His eyes narrowed as he watched the blinking signal of his hunters fade one by one. "So," he said coldly, "the bond has awakened fully." A tall figure in black armor stepped forward. A new hunter. Taller, faster, deadlier than the rest. "Shall I retrieve them, my lord?" The figure asked. Kale's lips curved into a cruel smile. "No," he said. "Do not retrieve them. Destroy them." Back on the planet's surface, Ethan felt a sudden chill, as if the universe itself had turned its gaze on them. He looked at Lyra, who shivered beside him. "What is it?" he asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. "He's coming," she said. "My father has sent his shadow." The forest wind grew cold, carrying whispers of war. The hunt had truly begun, and this time there would be no escape, only survival or silence. The forest had turned into a graveyard of light. The fires from the crashed drone still flickered between the trees, painting the night in golden ash. Ethan and Lyra hid beneath a rock overhang, the sound of distant thunder echoing through the mountains. But this thunder was not from the sky. It was the sound of engines. Moving closer, Lyra's breathing was shallow, her wound still glowing faintly. The bond between them pulsed weakly like a fading heartbeat. Ethan pressed a damp cloth to her shoulder, whispering, "Stay with me." She opened her eyes slowly, her voice trembling. "He's coming, Ethan. You don't understand what my father has sent." Ethan frowned. "Who?" he asked. "Who's coming?" Lyra's gaze drifted to the sky. "The shadow," she said. "My father's most powerful hunter. A creation of both man and machine. He has no heart, no mercy. He exists only to end what I have started." The wind grew colder. A strange vibration ran through the ground. Trees shivered and animals fled. Ethan looked up just in time to see a figure descend through the smoke. The air shimmered around him, tall, armored in black like a living shadow. His eyes burned like twin blue stars. His voice was calm and empty. "Princess Lyra of Seraph, surrender, or I will erase you both." Ethan raised his weapon, stepping in front of Lyra. "You'll have to go through me first," he said. The shadow tilted his head, almost amused. "That is the intention," he said before Ethan could react. The shadow moved, faster than any living thing. 1 second he stood still. The next his blade was inches from Ethan's throat. Ethan barely blocked with his rifle, sparks flying. The force sent him crashing into a tree. Lyra screamed, raising her hand. A surge of energy burst from her palm. Striking the shadow square in the chest, he staggered but didn't fall. His armor absorbed most of the blast. "Impressive," he said. "But pointless." Ethan pulled himself up, blood trickling from his lip. The bond inside him burned like fire. His veins glowed faintly blue. He could feel Lyra's heartbeat, fast, scared, desperate, he whispered. "Don't give up. Not now." The shadow charged again, swinging his blade with inhuman precision. Ethan dodged, barely keeping up. Every strike shook the ground. Each miss left a deep scar in the earth. Lyra joined in, energy swirling around her like a storm. Together, they fought. A soldier and a princess against a weapon of perfection. But the shadow was too strong. He caught Ethan's weapon mid-swing and crushed it in his hand. Then he struck, sending Ethan flying backward into the mud. The bond flared painfully. Lyra cried out as if she had been hit herself. "Ethan!" she screamed. The shadow turned toward her. Raising his arm, energy built around his weapon, glowing brighter with each pulse. "Goodbye," Daughter of the Emperor, he said. Lyra closed her eyes, ready for the end. But before the blast fired, a voice echoed inside the forest, not from any speaker, not from any man. It came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Enough, it said. The light around Ethan flared. Brighter than before, his body rose slowly. Surrounded by blue and white energy, his eyes burned like stars. The markings on his skin spread across his face and chest. Glowing like living fire, the shadow paused, scanning him. Impossible, he said. Ethan's voice was deeper now, calm but filled with power. You wanted to destroy us, he said. But you forgot something. The bond doesn't just share pain. It shares strength. In one motion, Ethan raised his hand, and the air rippled, the ground trembled. Lightning cracked from the sky, the shadow charged forward. But this time, Ethan met him with pure energy. Their clash was blinding, shaking the earth. Lyra watched, tears in her eyes as the two forces collided. Ethan shouted, "This ends now!" The bond between them burst into light, a wave of energy that exploded outward. The shadow screamed as his armor cracked and shattered. His body dissolved into ash. Fading into the storm, the forest went silent. Only the sound of the wind remained. Ethan fell to his knees. The glow fading, Lyra ran to him, holding him close. "You did it," she whispered. "He's gone." Ethan smiled weakly. "We did it," he said. But even as they embraced, a voice echoed faintly in Lyra's mind, her father's voice. Cold and distant. "You cannot hide forever. Daughter," he said. "You have chosen your side. Now I will destroy it." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "He knows we're still alive," she whispered. "He'll send more." Ethan looked at her, his expression calm despite the exhaustion. "Then let him," he said. "We'll face him together." The first rays of dawn broke through the clouds, bathing the ruined forest in golden light. Smoke curled toward the heavens, carrying the ashes of war. Lyra leaned her head against Ethan's shoulder, her voice soft. "Two worlds divided by hate," she said. "But maybe we can still change that." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then that's what we'll do," he said. "We'll make them see what we've seen." As they walked toward the horizon, the camera of imagination panned upward, revealing the stars above, where the Serath fleet gathered like silent giants in the sky, waiting, watching, and though the war was far from over, the bond between a human soldier and an alien princess had already begun to change everything, because sometimes the fate of two worlds begins with a single act of mercy, and the courage to see an enemy as something more